Well, many thanks. Now, Virgin Atlantic has unveiled a close partnership with Delta of the US as the two airlines intensify competition with rival British Airways. The announcement comes just one day after a heated exchange of words between the chief executive of BA's parent company and Virgin founder Sir Richard Branson. Under the deal, Delta will invest £224 million in Virgin Atlantic, acquiring a 49% stake currently held by Singapore Airlines. Virgin Group and Sir Richard Branson will retain the majority 51% stake, and Virgin Atlantic Airways will retain its brand and operating certificate. The tie-up will create an expanded transatlantic network, which Delta and Virgin claim will improve competition. Well, Virgin Atlantic's chief executive, Steve Ridgway, joins me now from central London. Evening, Steve. Many thanks for your time. I'm slightly confused here. Two transatlantic airlines, Virgin and Delta, want to coordinate fares and flight schedules, and yet you claim this will increase competition. How so?
Well, I think if you look at what's happened on the North Atlantic in the last few years, particularly once the Open Skies agreements were negotiated between Europe and the US, it envisages exactly this. And look what happened. They finally, after all our battling, approved British Airways and American Airlines getting together in this monster alliance that actually controls over 60% of the market on many routes between the US and Heathrow. And so this is a way of making sure that we can compete effectively with that. We will put our schedules and our routes together with those of Delta, and we'll make sure that we provide those schedules in a way that they work best for passengers. And of course, there's all the connectivity that will come on Delta's huge network in the US, as well as what we announced yesterday in terms of those feeder flights from Scotland and Manchester.
You get my point, though, Steve. At the moment, Delta and Virgin compete on flights into Heathrow from the States. Hereafter, you won't. That reduces competition, surely.
Now, this is about competing really with the other big alliances, and that's why I think if you look at the way these work, there will be absolute consumer benefits in terms of the number of services that we operate, the fact that we can grow, and more particularly that the network will just explode in terms of all the choices that are available to customers. So it will absolutely be a good thing, and it's a way of making sure that these other big monsters don't get away from us, and that there is that choice and that customers have that way of keeping prices keen.
12 years ago, Singapore Airlines paid £600 million for a 49% stake in Virgin Atlantic. Today, Delta paid £224 million for the same stake. This looks like a profile of a failing business shedding value.
No, not at all. I think if you just look at the world we live in today, back in 1999, there were very heady days in terms of the performance of the US economy and the UK and European economies, particularly across the North Atlantic. That all changed with 9/11 and what came subsequently with the Iraq wars, and then, of course, the oil spike in 2008 and then the global financial crisis. And if you just look at where airline stocks are today compared to where they were back then, actually you'll find that this is absolutely representative of the tough world we live in. And it's not just about aviation, it's many other industrial sectors as well.
Some of your ungenerous competitors would say, well, look, what Delta really wants here are the Heathrow slots. It's not at all interested in the Virgin brand, and slowly but surely it will gobble it up.
No, that's not true at all. They absolutely want what Virgin Atlantic brings to the North Atlantic in terms of our routes. It's not about slots. Those are Virgin Atlantic slots. And we have a formidable reputation on the North Atlantic in terms of our quality of service. And if you put our two carriers together, we will compete even more effectively. In fact, I would say on a market like New York, if you look at the quality of our facilities and services, that we may have fewer flights than BA and American, but actually the number one way to get to New York will be on Virgin Atlantic and Delta.
OK, let's give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume that this deal turns out to be a winner. What differences will the customers notice and care about?
Well, I think what they will really see is the fact that there'll be a lot more choice in terms of routes and networks, and the fact that there will be feed and connections from London to the north and domestic routes, and particularly in America, there will be many, many more places they can travel to in a much more seamless way as we put our operations together. So it will be very good for customers, and of course, ultimately, it will enable us to grow, because there will be markets that maybe on our own we couldn't have made a go of, which we will do together. Many routes, actually, that Virgin Atlantic flies, we have 6 flights to New York, but many other key markets in the US, we only have 1 flight a day. So by being able to offer more than 1 flight a day, that's exactly what customers want, whether it's corporate customers in the business cabins or leisure travellers.
All right, Steve Ridgway from Virgin Atlantic, many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Next on Jeff Randall Live.